Hello everyone, so having just returned from the most incredible trip I've ever hosted, which was the exclusive Amboseli and Mara Kicheche safari, this is my tour report and you're not going to want to miss it. Before I get started running into a couple of clips, a couple of highlights and all of that stuff for you guys, I thought I'd just share a little bit of basic information about this trip, where it goes to, amount of people, those types of things. So like basically the beauty of this trip is it goes to two of the absolute icons that we find in Kenya, and that is the Northern Mara and Amboseli. Throughout the trip our focus was kind of around big cats and elephants and the trip certainly delivered on that front. So like I said, I'll get into some of those highlights with you guys now. The trip takes place over 12 nights and 13 days, which goes to 3 different camps or lodges. And over and above that, another great thing about this trip is it is kept to 3 guests with 1 wild-eye guide. So very exclusive, a lot of time to learn, a lot of time out in the field, those types of things. So as you can imagine, that certainly helps. But like I say, let's jump straight into it. So the first camp that we ended up going to was the Kicheche Mara camp, which is found in the Mara North Conservancy. Now the beauty about this conservancy is, as I mentioned, it is a private concession, and all the concessions actually that we went to throughout the trip were private concessions. Now this obviously helped with off-roading, slightly flexible times, those types of things, so obviously that's great. Starting off with Kicheche Mara camp, beautiful camp, a camp found in this beautiful valley, really nice tented camps, all you need, very comfortable, and we had a wonderful time here. A quick story about this camp is one evening I woke up at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and my guest tent was about 400 meters more or less from me, and I heard this massive commotion. It woke me up, a whole bunch of hyenas. Anyway, I heard the story as we got to the vehicle the following morning that some hyenas had taken down a buffalo about 30 meters away from my guest camp. So that was really, as you can imagine, that gives you an idea of how just immersed you are in nature when you're out in this camp. Absolutely beautiful. So during our time out at Kicheche Mara camp, we were spoiled by sightings. And when I say spoiled, we had leopards, we had cheetah, we had lions, elephants, hyena, I mean the whole lot. We really had an incredible time while we were out there. And probably the highlight, if I had to pick one, throughout our time there included a leopardess with her cub, probably about a 5-6 month old cub. And they really put on a great show for us. We also had some beautiful sightings at sunrise with some lions. One morning in particular, we had 2 male lions that we found just before sunrise, ended up following them along the plains of the Mara, and they really brought some beautiful photographic opportunities for us. And over and above this, ended up leading us towards the rest of the pride, where there were some tiny cubs, very small baby cubs with the lionesses. So those interactions were really special. Over and above that, a beauty about the time while we were at Kicheche Mara camp and the Mara North Conservancy is we spent a total of 5 nights at this destination. Now why that was so helpful is because that allowed us to really just slow down and take our time while we were on safari. You know, if we got to a sighting with a leopard in a tree, the leopard was sleeping, we had the time on our hands to really just sit there the entire afternoon, which we did in some cases. And our patience paid off most of the time. So five nights at this destination was really good. You know, it's a huge area, so that also allowed us to explore different areas, different parts of the concession. And over and above that, another nice thing about that when you go on these slightly longer trips is after a great morning out on drive, we would come back, have lunch. Food was great, by the way. We would have lunch, and after that we would spend some time in Lightroom. And at times for one of my guests, either one of them, at times they thought, you know what, this afternoon I'm going to take the day off. And it actually just gave them time to relax. You know, when you come on these safaris, it's quite intense. People don't always realize how intense the time is, and you're out there in those vehicles, you're bouncing around, it's hot, and you get tired, you really do. So having that slightly extra time on safari allows you to often just slow down, take your time with sightings, take your time at camp, relax. And when we wanted to, we got stuck into some Lightroom. So really managed to work on that quite nicely. So Mara North, Kicheche Mara Camp, absolutely. Now for the second destination that we visited during the exclusive Amboseli and Mara Kicheche Safari. And that was, we moved slightly further east from the concession that we were in, into the Northern Mara Conservancy, where we stayed for 3 nights at the Kicheche Valley Camp. Now, for me personally, this was my favorite camp during our stay. The reason being, it was a slightly smaller camp with only a total of 6 tents. And that just gave a bit more exclusivity to the trip. And it was a good break right in between that allowed you to, again, just enjoy your time at camp while we could. And it was wonderful. So I had a really great time here. Now, when it came to sightings and those types of things, the Northern Mara Conservancy has a massive population of lions. And what this allowed is, every single day we had some really, really high profile sightings. And one of those specifically, my highlight by far, was one morning we managed to find we found a pride of lions, and not too far away we heard some males busy roaring close by. So we decided to move off. We got to them, and my goodness, it turned into the most incredible morning. Long story short, we found a male and a female. The female came running behind us, ended up catching a baby gazelle out of nowhere, which was quite cool to see. We ended up then following them along, and eventually the female kind of moved off into the bushes, trying to sort of distance herself from the male, and the male kind of gave up on chasing her, whatever it was. And basically we ended up sitting with this male, and next minute we saw 2 other males coming off in the distance. And this turned into the most incredible sighting, where this coalition, these guys came together, and basically they were on a very, very serious mission that morning. It appeared as a bit of a territorial push, where they were crossing over into a territory that wasn't quite theirs, and really intently, scent marking all over the place. But like I say, this turn, it was simply unbelievable, this whole sighting. We ended up spending about 2 hours with these lions, and we got out there, and it was the kind of thing where we were able to get in front of them a few times and literally having them come right past the vehicles. The photos and the videos that came from this were simply magical, and a sighting of a lifetime. I really believe there was something so special about that, the way we were able to follow them, watch their interactions, and we truly loved it. Sorry. Now, Amboseli was a simply beautiful, beautiful end to the safari, and we had a wonderful time at Tortillas Camp. A little bit of a much bigger camp actually, compared to the previous 2. But at the end of the day, we were there for the wildlife, we were there for the sightings. And I'll never forget the first night I met up with my guests in Nairobi, the night before our safari started. One of the gentlemen, Jonathan, mentioned that one of his dream shots for this safari was an elephant, bull, one of the big tuskers right in front of Kilimanjaro. And I thought to myself, oh no, this is going to be interesting. Hopefully we can get that one ticked off. And once again, simply blown away by what Amboseli had to offer us. It certainly was dry there. They are going through a very serious drought at the moment, and you feel for the communities around there, as well as the wildlife. However, it was still beautiful, and Amboseli offered some really incredible sightings that I know for all of us simply was memories that we'll never forget. So we had a great time. It started off heading through. We spent, obviously our main focus was elephants crossing the lake bed and Kilimanjaro. And on our second day, actually, after our first night at Tortillas Camp, we had the most mind-blowing day. And simply what that came down to was elephants crossing the lake bed. The morning started off very nicely. We found some elephants in a forest. and then made our way to the lake bed for some breakfast. And straight after breakfast, off in the distance, we could spot something, and before we knew it, we were after these elephants. And really, for myself as well, for my guests, this was, all of these destinations were new destinations for all of us, and Amboseli, it's included. I'd heard all of these wonderful stories, as I'm sure some of you have as well, about these elephants crossing this lake bed and getting nice and close to you. It was simply unexplainable how special that sighting was. And I'll never forget, there was one time where we had this herd come right past our vehicle, and we managed to get some beautiful photographs, but we actually all just took a moment to put the cameras down, and it actually got quite emotional. I ended up tearing up, guests were tearing up, and it's the type of thing that I would encourage any of you to, once in your lifetime, if you ever have the opportunity, to really go and experience that, because you feel so small in that moment. When you think about what these animals go through every single day, crossing that lake bed to go and get some water, it's really, really humbling, and it was special. So really, really special. We had a great time with that. And over and above that, the following morning had an absolutely unbelievable morning where we managed to find one of the big tuskers. Not one of the biggest tuskers, but a big tusker. He was certainly a big tusker, along with 3 other bulls. And we had them right from sunrise as the sun was rising, beautiful light. And eventually managed to get these guys all in front of Kilimanjaro, walking across Kilimanjaro. And the guests managed to nail their images. So really, really a special sighting. Jonathan got what he wanted. And all in all, we were truly, truly fortunate with everything that came our way. The cherry on top was that we had another crossing later on that afternoon. So simply, it really was the most magical time while we were out in Amboseli, including the previous 2 concessions on the safari. And like I say, for anyone who's kind of looking to, firstly focus on big cats and elephants, this is a magical safari for that. The exclusivity of it also makes a huge difference. The length of the trip makes a huge difference. And the reason being is, like I mentioned to you, things just aren't that rushed. And that helps a lot. That helps a lot for you as someone traveling on these trips to really absorb and take in everything, because when things are so high in intensity and every single day you're having these incredible sightings, you need to take a moment to just appreciate it all every now and then. And I'm really, really thankful that that's what we got to do as a little group. So it really was an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate all of you guys following along throughout the journey. Mike and Jonathan, shout out to you guys. It was an absolute pleasure hosting you out there. And yeah, for any of you guys who may have any questions on this safari, feel free to get in touch. We only have 1 space available next year. So if you are interested, if you would like to jump onto this, feel free to get in touch and let's make it happen. Thanks guys, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you may be, and we will chat